Yo, 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 how's it going, everybody? This is yours truly, Rama Screen. Uh, welcome to another live stream. Let's see here. I am here to talk to you guys about the sensation of the season, Tiger King, which had been on Netflix since last month. I believe last month, yeah. Um, and I've been meaning to talk about it like crazy. I just haven't had the time. Every time I wanted to do it, like something else came up, and I had to take care of that something else. And days go by, and I keep procrastinating. So I was like, you know what? I gotta do this. I gotta do this because I was obsessed with this show once I saw it. But let me turn on the slideshow here. Let's see if I get this correctly. Wait, that's not it. Is this it? Okay, this is it. All right. Can you guys all see it? Uh, whew, it's a little wheezy. Let's see. Let's escape real quick here. Maybe I'll just do a preview color. If I do a preview, what come out? Nothing comes out. But that's not a slideshow. Boo. Unless I can do a slideshow from here. God, me and technology, man. See, I'm not a Mac master. Some of you might be, but not me. And I might have to Google this later. Maybe I'll just keep it on Joe Exotic. See, look at that face. Oh, all right. I have a few notes here. Now, by the way, before I move forward, just want to say this is a spoiler-filled review, mainly because obviously the show is already on for you guys to binge watch on Netflix. So yeah, when it comes to my TV reviews of episodes that have already aired, obviously I was like, there's no point of me walking around or being all careful about, oh, what if I spoil this or spoil that. No, because the episode has already aired. It's already out there in the ether. You guys have already seen it. So I'm just giving you my thoughts, my opinions about it because I'm itching to do so. So yeah, this is a spoiler-filled review. Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! And even though I titled it review, it's gonna be more of a commentary. Okay. All right. First up, if you ask me, Rama, why did you not initially um make a review of Tiger King when it came out? Let me make this image bigger. How do you make image bigger here? Okay, bigger, bigger, bigger. That's too big. Okay. Um, the reason was that was my bad. That was my mistake. Okay, so usually um when I'm about to cover Netflix shows and movies that will arrive on Netflix the next month, usually a few weeks before, I would contact my Netflix contact people, and it's like, hey, can I get the screener for this? Can I get the screener for that? So I would see the list, for example, for the month of, let's say from May 2020, and I would see the list of the shows and movies that will be available on Netflix. Like, oh, and I would like try to see like which ones are gonna create buzz and which ones that I think are gonna be popular, and which ones that I don't probably need to waste my time on. And so when I was searching for the month of what Tiger King, March, I was like, I thought Tiger King would be like, just another documentary. I know there's already all these other lists of shows and movies that I gotta screen. I won't have time for Tiger King. So that was my bad. I thought it was gonna be a dud, but who knew? It turns out it's a phenomenon now. It's a sensation, and everybody is obsessed with Tiger King, including me. So I have nobody to blame but me for the fact that I did not ask Netflix for the screener for Tiger King when I should have done it. Um, so I watched the whole thing. I binge watched the whole thing. I think a few days after the show arrived, and man, I could not stop. Man, I think I was just like, I stopped for a moment just to eat. I don't know, eat lunch and dinner, or just to pee or whatnot. Because I was just like, oh my god, this is so insane. This show is so crazy. Uh, and I went even berserk, like really, like my mind was like, wow, I can't believe they're gonna add another episode, because the total episodes are 7 initially, but then news hit the web. I think it was Jeff Lowe, one of the characters on this docu series, who announced that, yay, you're gonna get an extra episode. So Netflix added episode 8. But I gotta say, uh yeah, I'm not too thrilled about episode 8. I find it a bit disappointing. I was like hoping like for an actual episode, Not not Joel McHale interviewing the cast of Tiger King. I'm not I was not looking forward to some kind of late night show format. I was like, "What? What is this?" Now, granted, um those interviews, with Jeff Lowe, his hot wife, God, his wife is so hot. And the people who had worked with, the workers of GW Zoo who had worked with Joe Exotic, those interviews that Joel McHale did with them in that episode 8, some of them do give you some good insight, you know. Um some of the questions are pretty helpful in helping us to get to know better about the situation behind the scenes. For example, they that the 7 episodes did not get to convey. That said, I would have been more interested if let's see here, where are we? Okay, if episode 8, I would have been more interested if, or I would have found it more interesting if episode 8 was about Joe Exotic busting out of prison. You know what I'm saying? Or I remember by the end of episode 7, I'm sure you remember watching it too. There was the post credit scene. There's this explanation as to, like, oh, what happens to, like, oh, Joe Exotic gets this number of years in prison. This is what happened to his private zoo. And the other explanation, or one of them, was that the FBI raided Doc Antle's zoo, if I'm not mistaken. You can correct me if I'm wrong. And I was like, what? I want to know. I want to see that. I want to know what happens to that. And I don't believe that Doc Antle and Carol Baskin were among those who Joel McHale interviewed in episode 8. So I was like, I'm so curious. Like, why did they raid him? Does that have anything to do? Does that have anything to do with Joe Exotic? Like, can we see that, please? But instead, they gave us this late night interview host formatting for episode 8. Um, so I would have found that those other alternatives way more interesting than Joel McHale interviewing the cast. But like I said, some of the questions and answers do give us some insights, uh, uh, especially with with the worker whose hand got bitten off by the tiger. Joe Exotic's workers. She said in the interview that um, Joe Exotic gave them excuses when they had to put down or essentially kill these tigers. Because that's one of the crimes, the charges that were put against Joe, because he killed some of those exotic tigers, and they found the burial for them, and she said the excuses like, oh, they're sick, oh, like, oh, we how do you call it? We don't have the resources to feed them anymore. All these excuses, and I was like, wow, really? You come up with excuses to justify killing these endangered species, these wild animals? Like, turns out, Joe doesn't have much love for these cats, like he claims. It's all just a show, and I'll get more into that in a few minutes. Um, Here's what I think about private zoos, and I had a conversation with a friend about this. We both love Tiger King, and you know, I have another friend who is very. She is like an animal rights person, so she watches this and she gets pretty much infuriated about it. She gets angry. She said, no, 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 no. She basically said, no, 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 no. We gotta let these cats free, all of them. There should not be any zoo. There should not be any Sea World. She's on that camp of mine. Whereas I kind of see some advantages of, or good benefits of having zoos. Um, as far as educational, bring awareness. Especially how do you make little children or younger generation be familiar with these species if there's no zoo, because these animals will be out in the wild, and many of them are not even in our country. Many of these tigers are located somewhere else. um so but there has to be, like, with everything else, there has to be balance, there has to be moderation, and I'm gonna get to that later in what I think about these private zoos. But I am not in the camp of like, no, there can't be any more. Even the fish in the aquarium on Monterey Bay, they have to be set free. It's case by case basis to me. But that's just my thought. I actually had visited an actual tiger private zoo once. I kid you not. I want to say it's around 2002. Um, I was fresh off college, or maybe I was still in college. Well, anyway, I want to say it's up in Big Bear area. I don't know if that zoo is still around, but basically it's similar to GW Zoo. There are tigers, there are leopards, there's jaguars, and I was young. I didn't think much of it. I was like, yeah, this is cool. I went with my uncle and my cousin, and it's just an awesome, to spend the day with your family and whatnot. So when I watched the first couple of episodes of Tiger King, when GW Zoo or Joe Exotic would like entertain the audiences or entertain the visitors, they would hold up one of the baby tigers, close to the visitors' faces, and they would take like Polaroid snapshot of each of them with the tiger next to. I'm like, oh, you can't help it. It's just so cuddly and so adorable. It looks so sweet, and these zoos, Joe Exotics and Doc Antle zoos. I think Doc Antle's in, I want to say, North Carolina, right? And Joe Exotics, I believe it's in Oklahoma, if I'm not mistaken. Um, well, these zoos are in regions of the United States or areas in the country where there's no Disneyland, in Oklahoma. There's no freaking Magic Mountain in North Carolina. Maybe they have something, that's kind of like it, but it's not Universal Studios. It's not, you know what I'm saying? There's no big attraction that or big ass theme parks that the families can go to take their kids and have fun. And so when I see those shots or scenes of the family enjoying themselves at Doc Antle Zoo or Joe Exotic Zoo, it takes me back to when my uncle, my cousin, and I went to that private zoo up in the Big Bear. You know, we enjoyed ourselves. We had a good time. And so my what I'm getting at is, you know, there's nothing. Well, I don't want to say there's nothing, but let me rephrase myself. There's some good benefit to that, and that's one of the benefits is that it gives family a, a an outlet, a place to enjoy themselves, since they're in the middle of, there's no beaches, they can't go to the beach, there's no, like I said, Disneyland, so they go to the private zoo. So come on. Why you gotta poo poo on that? Why you gotta be a buzzkill about that? That's adorable, right? So that's also uh another thinking of mine as far as this private zoos are concerned. Um, but I'll get more to my conclusion about private zoos later, at the end. Okay, so let's get to my next bullet points here. The workers. Okay, so the workers, you've seen the docu, right? The workers don't get paid jack shit. I mean, they get paid like, I want to say, I think in the docu series they reveal that, oh yeah, I only Joe only pays me $100 a week. Doc Antle only pays me 120, and if I don't show up for work in a couple of days, I get docked on that, something along that line. I was like, what? That is crazy. And did you see the amount of work that they put into those places? Oh man, I feel so bad for them. And then that lady, that worker that got his arm bitten off by one of the tigers, one of Joe's workers. And she talks to the camera, and she gives her testimony about Joe. I was like, and she said, she comes back to work afterwards. Like, why? If I were you, the day after I got my arm amputated, the day after I got released from the hospital, I would totally leave that world, leave that job forever. You don't get paid jack shit, and now you don't have an arm. Why do you come back? I just don't get it. Which leads me to my next bullet point: is that, like, the wives, the many wives of Doc Antles, um, they also work for him, and apparently he sleeps with them too. He has sex with them. Although, to Doc's credit, though, I think each of his wives, each of them gets a house. Like, there's a shot of him driving through his compound, with the documentarian on the passenger side, with the camera, and so the camera takes a whole shot of the this field of, like, and then you see a house and a house and a house, and then I think Doc Antle says, like, oh yeah, so and so lives there, so and so lives in that one, and then my next wife lives in that one. I don't know if he calls them wives, but obviously he has sex with them, and they work for him, and they don't get paid jack shit. Sure, they get um, means to live or a place to live, but still, like, I don't get it. It's like, I don't get the reason behind it. And you can tell with some of the workers that talk to the camera, especially Joe's workers, some of them are like not content. They're not happy, with some of the conditions. They're not happy with some of Joe's decisions. But you guys are still there. I don't get it. As for the wives, it's like a cult thing, man. It's like, I think if David Koresh was still alive, the guy from Waco, Texas, and if he saw Tiger King, he would be like, Shit, why didn't I think of that? Why did I have to like freaking do a standoff with the against the FBI? Why can't I just get a multiple wives and have a cult of my own, and I don't pay them shit? Oh man, I just don't get the reason behind it. It's one of those cases where when you deal with a family member that you just can't reason with, you want to just like kind of shake him, or do what Cher did to Nicolas Cage in Moonstruck and just slap him in the face, like snap out of it. Uh, all right, so there is this photo that went viral online. I think it's on Twitter. Um, Not too long after this docu series became a hit. Let's see here. Okay. So the photo reveals that apparently Doc Antle and Carol Baskin, that's another figure person on this docu series. Apparently, they had a hand in helping Britney Spears. The lovely, famous Britney Spears. They had a hand in helping her with her MTV Video Music Awards performance, the one where she had like a big ass yellow boa constrictor and some other animals on the stage. But I believe this was before Britney Spears had that, you know, meltdown where she shaved her head. So this is like back when she was really really in her prime. Um, and so that went viral, and okay, I guess there. I don't know if there's any truth to that. You can kind of see from the photo that may look like Carol Baskin, that kind of look like Doc Antle in the background. I don't know. I don't know if that's true. But if it is, so what? I still don't get why that is such a big deal, because um like movies and TV shows, sometimes they would have consultants, maybe FBI consultants for FBI shows, or in movies they would have consultants about I don't know, any kinds of consultants, uh, if they have a plane stunt or whatnot. Um, so a famous person like Britney hiring two private zoo owners to consult her, to help her with her performance that has to do with animals. It's like it can happen to any famous person. So if it is true, it's just a fun fact. But I don't see the big deal about it. It's like Hollywood uses Hollywood would hire experts and consultants for their performances all the time. Okay, I want to get a little bit dark and morbid here with you guys. So just a heads up, one of the other colorful characters on this docu series is Travis. Travis is one of Joe Exotic's husbands. Joe has two husbands, Travis and this other guy who has tooth problem. I forgot his name. And eventually we found out that they're actually straight. Joe Exotic is gay, but apparently he marries two straight guys that he thought was gay. He thought were gay. Travis and this other guy. So there's a scene where Travis shoots himself in the head. We don't see it. It's like a surveillance camera setting. So the camera is on this other guy who I think he is Joe Exotic's campaign manager when Joe's running for president. And so he's looking at Travis standing underneath the camera, I'm assuming. And anyway, he's high as a kite and he's playing with his gun. He's like pointing the gun at that other guy. He's like, hey, what? I told you many times, don't point the gun at me. And then, Travis is like, oh, come on, chillax, man. There's nothing to it. And then Travis puts the gun to his head, pulls the trigger, and then you see like a flash of light, pow. And the other guy was like, oh, oh shit. He was like, oh, he just like he's frozen there like a statue for a good couple of minutes. That oh my god, that scene is shocking as hell. Woo! I I didn't see that coming. Uh and the way that happened, because the flash of light um on that surveillance camera, they're just like the other guy was going like this. I was like I was going like, what the? Oh, could you imagine if you see somebody pulling a trigger and dropping that in front of you like that? I don't know, man. I would be, I would be having PTSD for the next few weeks or something. That just, how do you get past such an image? Oh man, and dude, and you could tell at least from the descriptions in the docu series leading up to that shocking scene that Travis is just unhappy. He's not happy being there. But then again, it goes to what I said earlier. Just leave. Just leave. Come on. Leave. The other guy had an affair with an actual woman, because both people were straight. And he had that woman left. It's like, it's not a prison, dude. But Travis felt like, I guess, suffocated. He felt like there's no way out of this. I'm just, dude, that scene was ingrained in my memory, man. Long after I saw it, I was like, wow. I kept thinking and thinking about it. Whew. Um, yeah, definitely morbid, definitely shocking, definitely unexpected. Um, but I'm gonna wrap it up, of course, about my thoughts about Joe and Travis at the end. But just want to let you know that scene, really rattled me when I first saw it. Um, Now let's get to the bullet point. I want to ask you this question: did Carol Baskin feed her husband to her tigers? um, I asked my friend this not too long ago, and she's like, I don't know, because there's an episode, I think in the middle of the docu series, that's dedicated. That episode is entirely dedicated to just about Carol Baskin. Her background, um, how she got to be in the tiger sanctuary business, her marriage to her rich husband, and then of course her rich husband ended up missing. Um, and then Joe, because Joe really really hates Carol because Carol keeps calling out um, Joe for breeding the animals and all these kinds of stuff. So Joe makes it his mission to really really hate Carol Baskin. Like on his internet show, he would make like fun of Carol Baskin, about killing her and whatnot. And one of the things that he does is that he would keep saying that Carol Baskin killed her husband and fed him to her tigers, although there's no evidence to that. If you ask me though, I if I were to guess, I would say that you know I think, and I know this is just me speculating, assuming whatever we want to call it. But my theory is that I think Carol Baskin's rich husband had a lot of enemies. He was worth about $50 million, if I'm not mistaken. So he must have caused somebody to be angry or upset at him, that so much so that they would want him disappear. Um, I don't think she has anything to do with it. If you ask me, uh, especially not by herself, trying to take a man down like that and then try to drag him to the tiger den and without getting caught. I don't think she has um the tactic strategy nor the energy to pull that off. Um I think my theory is that just like Jimmy Hoffa, so her rich husband must have been dealing with some shady, I don't know, maybe mobsters or shady people, and they killed him. They killed him. Um, that's my theory. If if you say that the rich husband probably just like ran away, because their marriage did kind of get cold and they were not in love anymore, and so maybe he's like, oh, maybe he just ran away, with a new identity, start a new life somewhere. That could be a possibility too, but that would be or that would be much more, that would be easier to trace. That's what I was gonna say. You can track down, somebody like, if you're in a eyewitness protection program, you can still track down that person. There has been stories about people who are who started new identities and they got found. But there's no trace of this guy. So I think it's a Jimmy Hoffa situation, if you ask me. And I don't know if they dumped the body in some swamp somewhere or some lake. I have no idea. But I don't think that Carol is the one who did it. And but that said, Joe's song or music video "Kitty Kitty" is pretty hilarious. That "Kitty Kitty" song is hilarious. Um, all right, I'm coming to the end of my conclusion or my thoughts here. I promise you, I don't want to make this too long. Um, my next bullet point is that I think Joe's mistake, because right now Joe is in prison because he's found guilty of murder for hire. He tried to hire people to kill Carol Baskin, and I believe some of the charges against him also, like I said earlier, um, it relate to the fact that he killed his own tigers. There's a law against that apparently, and so they found where they buried it. And it's like, oh my god! So that and the murder for hire that got him like years in prison. So he's locked up right now. So what I'm getting at is Joe's mistake is that he is way too obsessed with Carol Baskin. Um, I'm like, dude, the whole time I was watching his shenanigans about Carol Baskins, and I was like, what the hell? Dude, let it go. Let it go. Why can't you just let it go? I don't like Carol Baskin either. I think Carol Baskin is a hypocrite. I mean, really, you're calling out, pointing finger on other private zoo owners when you've done the same thing that they did. She did breeding some of those animals too, and then of course she stopped. But doesn't really erase what you did. And Carol, you still have those animals like caged, man. You call yourself like a sanctuary, or what do you call that? I don't know, maybe something like a tiger haven or whatever. I forgot what she calls her compound. And she makes it like she make it sound like, oh, my place is different than Doc Antles and Joe Exotics. Mine is like, the tigers are happy here, and we're helping the community here. Look, we got uniforms for our workers. Like, dude, you're doing the same thing they doing. You're profiting off of these animals. So shut the hell up. You're a hypocrite, Carol Baskin. But Joe, but Joe is too obsessed with her. I'm like, dude, let it go, let it go. Other private zoo owners like Doc Antle and some, the other guys, because the documentarian, they also interviewed a private zoo owner that used to be a drug cartel or something. So anyway, there's these other private zoo owners who also hate Carol Baskin just as much as Joe does, but you don't see them like, making internet videos about Carol Baskin or making songs about Carol Baskin feeding her husband to the tigers. Joe just can't seem to let it go. So that is probably his biggest mistake. Like, his obsession with trying to take down Carol Baskin. And among other things, also I just want to point out, let's talk about Joe real quick here. Joe, to me, I think Joe has what it's called, I don't know if it's a medically correct term, but small people complex. All right. I don't mean to offend small people out there in the audience, but you know what I'm getting at. Where if you're short or small, you're trying to like, hey, what are you trying to say, punk? You get defensive and you always trying to prove yourself. Like, oh, I'll show them. I will show them all. Um, Joe, to me, seems that kind of guy. Um, I don't know if he got picked on when he was a kid, but he just seems like he has mountains of insecurity, man. Which is why it's obvious that at the end of the day, it's all about him. For him, it's like me, 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 me. It turns out it's not about the Tigers at all. There's a shot. Speaking of shot, there's a part in the docu series where he actually like pulled out his gun and shot his the tigers who were like nibbling at his feet. I was like, this guy's a fraud. So of course, the fact that he ran for president and governor, it's all about him. It's like me, 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 me. He even said to the camera like, "Oh yeah, these people come to see me. They're not the tigers." So it's like a small people complex, man. It's like, you, there's this like hole in your soul, and you guys just gotta. You feel like you have to fill it. There's this desire to like just show everybody I'm something. Ah, how sad. What a sad existence, bro. um, I think though, if you ask me what makes this show extremely popular, that it has become such a huge phenomenon on Netflix. Everybody can't stop talking about Tiger King. One of them is because, or one of the reasons is because the subject matter is fascinating. There hasn't been any other documentary like this, right? About eccentric tiger aficionados, if you will. So that's one reason. And the guys behind this documentary, Eric Good and Rebecca Chaiklin, I hope I pronounced that name correctly. They're smart. They're smart in like structuring the docu into these segments that, you know, at first kind of tugs at your heartstrings, like I said, when it comes to the visitors at those zoos. But then it builds up, builds up, builds up, builds up, and then it becomes like by episodes 5, 6, 7, you're not on the side of Joe or Jeff and all those guys anymore, because you're like, oh shit, they kind of suck. They're hypocrites. They're self-centered. I don't want to be associated with them. um, and I think another reason why the show is hugely popular And I don't mean this like to be demeaning or to be offensive, but it's the same reason why Jerry Springer show or those trashy daytime talk shows, it's the same reason why those shows are popular, right? It's the same reason why Jerry Springer is popular. And that is redneck fight. Come on, you gotta admit. People watch Judge Judy and Maury and Jerry Springer for the redneck fight. And that's so with the cat fight between Carol and Joe and Doc Antle versus Carol, and it's redneck fight, man. It's just there's something that's so irresistible about it. People come to watch it like people want to watch a train wreck, and people like Doc Antle and Joe and Carol, they have ways of doing things, or they have worldviews that when they spit out those worldviews, it makes you facepalm. Like, oh, really? Is that how you see it? Like, there's some things where Joe's like, yeah, it's like, if you do this, then this will happen. Like, I'm not saying they're dumb, but clearly they're ignorant about some things. Um, so it's the redneck fight angle. It's like so juicy. It makes people like want to see it. Uh, so as I'm winding down to my ending here, back to what I said earlier, to my thoughts about private zoos. Um, by the way, I feel really bad about Joe and the fact that he married two straight guys. It's like I don't really wish that on anybody. Like, that angle or that part is a bit heartbreaking about Joe. Like, the guy didn't marry people who love him back. That sucks, man. That really really sucks. And it ends tragically. With one of them left and one of them shot himself. So just want to put it out there that for that part of Joe's life, I feel for him. I feel for him, and I don't want to wish that on anybody. I hope everybody would find people who they love as much as they love them back. Requited, not unrequited. So private zoos. Again, like I said earlier, I'm pretty mixed bag about that. About zoos in general, or sea worlds, or aquariums. I'm not on the camp like, no, release them all, release the Kraken, free them all, free Tibet. I'm not on the PETA camp, because PETA can be crazy at times. Have you seen them in protests and demonstrations on the street? Man, those guys can be cuckoo for Cocoa Puff. So I'm not in that camp, but because I think that there's something that can be educational and can bring awareness about zoos in general. But private zoos, I think though, they should be owned by the states. So Joe's in Oklahoma, if I'm not mistaken, and I think Doc Antle's in North Carolina. I think Carol Baskin's in Florida. Anyway, I gotta check that. But anyway, those states should be owning um, those facilities, those animals. The state should protect those animals. They should belong. They should belong to the states. Um, because as you have seen in this docu, especially with Joe's workers, man, they get paid shit. They live like crap, man, because Joe doesn't pay them nothing. So there's manual labor abuse on top of animal abuse. You know what I'm saying? Because people like Doc, Carol, and Joe, at the end of the day, they're like any other capitalist who lets capitalism get into their head. what in that setting or in that format, when you get to that mindset, you want to exploit labor, or we want to exploit workers, you want to exploit, in this case, animals, so that you can get more popular, so that you can get richer, so you can get better reputation, like Carol, like, oh, I'm better than the other private zoo. So they're no better than the CEOs of ExxonMobil, or the CEOs of, you know what I'm saying? So there's workers exploitation, there's animal abuse. So for that to be avoided, I think the state should own those facilities, in my opinion. Um, Obviously, you saw from the episode 7, Jeff Lowe. He was like, "Oh yeah, this. Oh, I have a vision. I'm gonna create a bigger zoo, and then with my partner, we're gonna do it our own. Do the whole thing on our own." But guess what happened? He ended up taking advantage of his partner, so his partner felt like, "Man, I'm doing all the work. I'm paying for all this thing. That's all my money. Like, screw you." So he left. So the zoo never happened. His dream never got realized, because it's all about me, 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 me. So Jeff himself is also a bad guy. He's no saint. Um, but if these facilities or these animals get protected by the states, um, then they could get the funding and the resources needed, and people in that region can still enjoy these animals, and they get protected, and the workers, of course, will get like minimum wage or living wage or whatever the workers at zoos get paid. So yeah, that's, at the end of the day, that's my opinion. I'm not totally against, like, oh, zoos in general. I think there's some good benefits that come with that, especially for families in that region. That's their entertainment. That's their amusement. Where else could they go? They don't have beaches in Oklahoma, North Carolina. Maybe North Carolina has beaches. I don't know. Um, and that's educational. That's information for little children, the younger generation, to actually see endangered species up front. Up close. It's quite the experience, right? It's something else. But these animals, these workers, they need to be paid and taken care of really, really well. Otherwise, it's not good. And so, there's no hero in this story. Joe, Jeff Lowe, Doc Antle, Carol. To me, they're all hypocrites. They all suck. They're eccentric though. They're fun to watch. That's why, like I said, we come to watch redneck fight or a train wreck. But as far as morality goes, they 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 broke the suck meter, for lack of a better way of explaining it. Um, so those are my thoughts. Those are my bullet points on Tiger King. I just quite This is an insane and fascinating docu series, and by the end of it, even though I'm not really crazy about episode 8, like I told you, like, damn, what the hell with these interviews, man? Like, give me an actual episode. Um, I'm hoping that the people behind this documentary would, for the next venture or the next project, would find some subject matter that is just as interesting, or maybe give us season 2, because there's a lot of other private zoo owners like the one I visited at up in Big Bear area. Like, there are many others. Not just these 3 guys. So it'll be cool to see their stories as well. So that's it. Man, I was rambling for like an hour, I believe. Wow, you guys still here? Thank you so much for tuning in. So yeah, what do you think about Tiger King? If you've seen it, did you like it? Did you not like it? What do you think about private zoos or zoos in general? What do you think about Joe Exotic versus Carol Baskin? Do you think Carol Baskin actually killed her husband and fed him to her tigers? Let me know your thoughts. I want to hear your thoughts about Tiger King in the comment section below. And as always, subscribe to my channel, press that like button, and if you can I'm sorry, and if you can support this channel, please do so at patreon.com/ramascreen. That's patreon.com/ramascreen. All right, I'll give you more well-edited reviews coming up tomorrow and in the next few days. But go check out the reviews that I posted today of Netflix new movie Extraction, Apple TV Plus new series Defending Jacob, and Amazon Prime Video series Upload. Oh, you guys are awesome. All right, let's rock this.